Samantha Gray's fingers trembled as she scrolled through Liam's phone, the screen glowing faintly in the dim light of their bedroom. She wasn't proud of snooping, but the seed of doubt had grown too large to ignore. Earlier that day, she had spotted a notification flash on his lock screen, a name she didn't recognize and a heart emoji next to it. Her instincts whispered that something wasn't right. At 33, Samantha was one of Manhattan's youngest self-made millionaires, a force to be reckoned with in the tech industry. She had built her company, Gray Innovations, from scratch, a journey marked by long nights, personal sacrifices, and unwavering grit. To the world, she was the definition of success, intelligent, fiercely independent, and always in control. But tonight, control seemed to be slipping through her fingers. She glanced around the sprawling bedroom of her penthouse, its floor-to-ceiling windows offering a glittering view of the Manhattan skyline. This life, her life, was one she had dreamed of as a child. Growing up in a tiny, rundown apartment with a single mother who worked 2 jobs, Samantha had learned early on that nothing came easy. People left, promises were broken, and the only person you could truly rely on was yourself. Liam Carter was supposed to be the exception. He wasn't like the powerful businessmen or polished socialites who often tried to woo her at charity galas and corporate events. Liam was a schoolteacher with an infectious laugh, a passion for shaping young minds, and a love for the simple things in life. Samantha had fallen for him not because of what he had, but because of who he was: kind, genuine, and utterly unpretentious. He made her feel safe in a way no one ever had before. And yet, as she stared at the text message on his phone, doubt coiled tightly around her heart. The message was from a woman named Rachel. "I can't wait to see you tonight. It means the world to me." Liam had said he was at a work dinner, but this was the 3rd one that week. His behavior had been off for months now. Late nights, vague answers, and a growing distance between them. Samantha had chalked it up to pre-wedding jitters. After all, planning a wedding was stressful, especially when your fiancé was a millionaire and your life suddenly came under public scrutiny. But now, the evidence in front of her was hard to ignore. Her chest tightened as she pieced together the little signs she had brushed aside. Liam's hesitation to make eye contact during their conversations, his phone constantly flipped over on the table, the hurried explanations about where he'd been. Had she been so focused on building their future together that she missed the cracks forming in their present? Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, pulling her from her thoughts. A message from her assistant, Claire, lit up the screen. "Everything's set for the surprise tomorrow. You're going to blow him away. Can't wait to see his reaction." The irony wasn't lost on her. Tomorrow, she was flying Liam and their closest friends to Napa Valley for a surprise engagement party at a secluded vineyard. She'd planned every detail meticulously: a custom menu, live music, and even a fireworks display. The event was more than just a celebration. It was a declaration of her love and commitment to him. But what if Liam wasn't committed to her? Samantha's jaw tightened. She hadn't fought her way to the top, overcoming betrayal and setbacks, just to be someone's fool. If Liam was hiding something, she had to know. Anger and fear twisted together in her chest as she grabbed her coat and stepped into the cool Manhattan night. Tonight, she would follow him. What she didn't realize was that this decision would not only uncover the truth, it would shatter the foundation of everything she thought she knew about Liam and about herself. Samantha stepped into the crisp Manhattan night, her mind racing with scenarios that swung wildly between betrayal and innocent misunderstanding. The sound of her heels clicking against the pavement felt unusually loud, each step a declaration of the resolve she had forced herself to muster. She wasn't sure what she hoped to find: clarity, perhaps, or proof that her fears were unfounded. But deep down, she knew that whatever she uncovered tonight could change everything. Her breath clouded in the cool air as she hailed a cab. "Follow that car," she instructed the driver, handing him a $100 bill along with Liam's license plate number. The cabbie raised an eyebrow but didn't ask questions. Samantha had spotted Liam leaving their building just minutes ago, dressed in the same navy suit he wore to work that morning. He'd texted her an hour earlier, claiming his work dinner was running late, but there was no dinner meeting tonight. Not that she knew of, at least. The stakes were too high to ignore the gnawing doubt in her gut. As the cab weaved through Manhattan's traffic, Samantha's thoughts spiraled. She tried to rationalize the situation. Maybe Rachel was a colleague or a family friend. Maybe the text was innocent. But why hadn't Liam ever mentioned her? And why did he seem so secretive lately? She remembered the early days of their relationship, how Liam would bring her coffee during her late-night coding sessions, how he'd surprise her with handwritten notes hidden in her purse. He made her believe in love again after years of guarding her heart. But now, all those memories felt fragile, as though they could shatter under the weight of her suspicion. "Is that him?" the driver asked, pulling her attention back to the present. Samantha's gaze followed his finger, landing on a familiar black sedan parked outside a boutique hotel. Her stomach dropped. Liam stepped out of the car, his posture stiff, and glanced around as if ensuring he wasn't being watched. He adjusted his tie and walked through the glass doors of the hotel. Samantha's pulse quickened. "Wait here," she told the cabbie, slipping out of the car. The hotel lobby was a mix of muted elegance and bustling energy. Samantha kept her distance, her sharp eyes following Liam as he approached the front desk. Her heart pounded in her chest as she watched him speak to the receptionist, who handed him a keycard. "What are you doing here, Liam?" She ducked behind a marble column, her mind racing. This wasn't a misunderstanding. Men didn't book hotel rooms for innocent reasons. She thought about confronting him right there, but something held her back. Instead, she waited, her breath shallow, until he disappeared into the elevator. Moments later, Samantha approached the desk. "Excuse me," she said, forcing a calmness she didn't feel. "The man who just checked in, Liam Carter, what room is he in? I think I left my wallet in his car." The receptionist hesitated. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I can't give out guest information." Samantha leaned in, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Please, I'm his fiancé. This is kind of an emergency." The woman's expression softened. "Room 812, she said quietly, before glancing around to ensure no one overheard. Samantha thanked her, her palms clammy as she headed toward the elevator. The number 812 burned in her mind. Her stomach churned with equal parts dread and determination. Whatever Liam was hiding, she was going to find out. When the elevator doors opened on the 8th floor, Samantha hesitated. The hallway was eerily silent, the kind of quiet that made her skin crawl. Room 812 was just a few steps away. She took a shaky breath and moved toward it, each step heavier than the last. Her hand hovered over the doorknob for a moment before she knocked. She didn't know what she expected. A confrontation? An apology? Maybe even a fight. But when the door opened, the sight on the other side left her speechless. It wasn't Liam who answered. A woman stood in the doorway, Rachel. Her red hair was pulled back into a loose bun, her expression a mix of surprise and confusion. She was wearing a simple black dress, the kind that didn't scream seduction, but certainly didn't downplay it either. "Can I help you?" Rachel asked, her tone polite but guarded. Samantha's voice caught in her throat. She faltered, the words refusing to come out. "I'm Liam's fiancé." For a split second, Rachel's eyes widened, but she quickly masked it with a composed smile. "Oh," she said, stepping aside. "Then I suppose you should come in." The room was modestly decorated, a far cry from the luxury Samantha was accustomed to, but her focus wasn't on the furnishings. It was on the faint sound of water running in the bathroom. Her heart thudded painfully as she realized Liam was here, with Rachel. "Liam," Rachel called out, her voice calm but firm. "You have a visitor." The sound of running water stopped. A few seconds later, the bathroom door opened and Liam stepped out, his expression freezing mid-step when he saw Samantha standing there. "Samantha!" he stammered, his face pale. Samantha clenched her fist, her voice trembling with controlled fury. "What the hell is going on here?" The silence in the room was deafening. Samantha stood frozen, her arms crossed tightly across her chest as she glared at Liam. Her voice when it came was low and icy. "Start talking, Liam. Now." Liam looked at Rachel, who gave him a pointed nod as if to say, "This is your mess to clean up." He hesitated, running a hand through his damp hair before stepping closer to Samantha. "It's not what it looks like," he said finally, his voice laden with guilt. "I know how this must seem, but please, just let me explain." Samantha scoffed, her anger bubbling over. "Not what it looks like. You're in a hotel room with another woman, Liam. What exactly is it supposed to look like?" Rachel cleared her throat, drawing Samantha's glare. "Maybe I should leave you two alone," Rachel offered, grabbing her purse. "No," Samantha snapped. "You stay right here. I want to hear what both of you have to say." Liam sighed, his shoulders sagging under the weight of the moment. "Rachel is an old friend," he began, avoiding Samantha's piercing gaze. "We grew up together. She's been going through a rough time. Some things she didn't feel comfortable telling anyone else." "And you thought sneaking around behind my back was the best way to help her?" Samantha shot back. "You couldn't have just told me about her." "It wasn't that simple," Liam said, his tone pleading. "Rachel's ex is dangerous. She needed help getting out of a bad situation, and I promised her I wouldn't tell anyone. I thought I was protecting her." Rachel stepped in then, her voice measured but firm. "He's telling the truth," she said. "I'm not proud of this, but I was in an abusive relationship. Liam was just trying to help me. That's all this is." Samantha crossed her arms tighter, her mind reeling. The story sounded plausible, but the trust she'd placed in Liam felt irreparably cracked. "Why the secrecy?" she demanded. "If you were really just helping her, why keep it a secret from me?" Liam hesitated, his face reddening. "Because I knew how it would look," he admitted. "And honestly, I was scared. Scared that you wouldn't believe me, scared that it would make me look weak." Samantha let out a bitter laugh. "So, instead, you decided to lie to me and risk me finding out this way? Great plan, Liam. Really brilliant." The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Samantha felt the weight of her own emotions pressing down on her. Anger, betrayal, confusion, and even a flicker of guilt for assuming the worst. "I trusted you," she said finally, her voice trembling. "Do you have any idea how humiliating this is for me? I've spent weeks planning a surprise for you, an engagement party to celebrate us, and this is what I get in return." Liam's face fell. "I'm sorry, Samantha. I never meant to hurt you. I thought I was doing the right thing." Rachel spoke up again, her tone more defensive this time. "Look, I didn't ask him to lie to you. I told him to be honest, but if it helps, I'll leave. I'll figure this out on my own." Samantha turned to Rachel, her anger softening slightly. "This isn't about you," she said. "It's about him and us." Before Samantha could say more, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, her breath hitching as she read the message on the screen. "You think you know the truth? Meet me at the lobby bar in 10 minutes if you really want answers." Her blood ran cold. The message was from an unknown number. She glanced at Liam and Rachel, their faces still tense with the weight of the confrontation. "Who else knows about this?" she demanded, showing them the message. "Did you tell anyone?" Liam shook his head. "No, I don't even know what that's about." But Samantha didn't trust him. Not anymore. Without another word, she turned on her heel and stormed out of the room, her pulse pounding as she made her way to the lobby. Whoever sent that message knew something, and she was determined to find out what. Samantha's heels clicked sharply against the polished marble floor as she descended into the hotel lobby. The room was warm and inviting, with soft jazz playing in the background and clusters of people chatting at the bar. But Samantha's focus was razor sharp. Her eyes darted around the space, searching for anyone who might be waiting for her. The anonymous text had sent a jolt through her, reigniting the anger and suspicion that Liam's explanation had only barely dulled. If someone knew more about what was going on, she wasn't going to let this opportunity slip away. She approached the bar, her heart pounding. "Scotch," "Neat," she told the bartender, her voice steadier than she felt. She scanned the room again, her fingers gripping the edge of the bar. "Whoever sent that message better show up," she muttered under her breath. "Looking for someone." The voice came from her left, low and calm. Samantha turned sharply to find a man in his 40s seated a few stools away. He had an air of quiet confidence, dressed in a tailored black suit with an expression that was both unreadable and unsettling. "Who are you?" she demanded, keeping her tone sharp. "Did you send this?" She held up her phone, the text still glowing on the screen. The man smirked and sipped his drink before answering. "Let's just say I'm someone who thought you deserved the truth." "About what?" Samantha shot back, her patience wearing thin. "If you have something to say, say it. I'm done with games." He set his glass down and leaned closer, his eyes narrowing. "Did Liam tell you about the money?" Samantha froze. "What money?" The man chuckled, a sound devoid of humor. "Of course he didn't. Why would he? It would ruin his whole good guy act." Samantha's stomach churned. "Explain. Now." The man leaned back as if savoring the moment. "Rachel's ex isn't just some dangerous guy. He's dangerous because Liam made him that way. Your fiancé loaned him money, big money, when Rachel came crying to him about her problems. But here's the kicker. When her ex couldn't pay it back, things got complicated." Samantha's mind reeled. "You're lying," she said, though her voice lacked conviction. "Liam would never. He doesn't even have that kind of money." The man raised an eyebrow. "You really believe that? Think about it, Samantha. You're the millionaire in this relationship. You think it's a coincidence that Liam suddenly started having all these secrets, all this stress? He's been dipping into your bank account to cover Rachel's mess." The words hit her like a punch to the gut. Samantha felt her grip on the bar tighten. "That's not possible," she said, but even as she spoke, doubts began creeping in. She thought about the late-night calls Liam always took in private, the financial discussions he'd avoided ever since they got engaged. "I don't believe you," she said finally, her voice shaking. "You're just trying to stir up trouble." The man shrugged. "Believe what you want, but if you don't trust me, maybe you should check your accounts. See for yourself." Samantha hesitated. The idea of confronting Liam again, this time with accusations of stealing, felt unbearable. But if this man was telling the truth, she couldn't afford to ignore it. Without another word, Samantha turned and left the bar, her mind racing. She stepped outside, the cold night air hitting her like a slap. Her hands fumbled as she pulled out her phone and logged into her banking app. The screen loaded slowly, each second stretching into an eternity. When her accounts finally appeared, Samantha felt the blood drain from her face. Several large withdrawals had been made in the past 2 months, amounts she hadn't authorized, transferred to an account she didn't recognize. Her chest tightened, a mix of anger and betrayal swirling inside her. Liam had lied. He hadn't just lied, he'd stolen from her. And worse, he'd used her money to protect Rachel and her mess of an ex. Samantha clenched her jaw, her vision blurring with unshed tears. She couldn't go back to the room, not yet. She needed time to think, to process. But one thing was clear. Liam's actions had crossed a line she couldn't ignore. As she stood there trying to steady her breathing, her phone buzzed again. Another text from the unknown number. "You've seen enough. Meet me at the rooftop terrace if you want to know what happens next." Samantha stared at the message, her anger now mingled with unease. Who was this person and how did they know so much? And why were they dragging her deeper into this web of secrets? She took a deep breath, her resolve hardening. Whatever this was, she needed to see it through. She headed back into the hotel, the elevator ride to the rooftop feeling like an eternity. When the doors opened, she stepped into the cool night air of the terrace, the city lights stretching out before her. But she wasn't alone. The man from the bar was there, leaning casually against the railing, and next to him was someone Samantha never expected to see. Samantha stepped onto the rooftop terrace, her breath catching in the cold night air. The city skyline stretched endlessly before her, glittering and serene, a stark contrast to the storm raging inside her. Her eyes locked on the man from the bar, who stood leaning against the railing with a smug expression. Beside him was someone who made her heart stop, Rachel. "What the hell is going on here?" Samantha demanded, her voice sharp enough to cut through the night. Rachel glanced nervously at the man before stepping forward. "Samantha, I can explain." "No," Samantha snapped, holding up a hand to silence her. Her gaze darted to the man. "You, start talking. Who are you, and why do you care about any of this?" The man smirked, his calm demeanor unsettling. "Name's Marcus. Let's just say I have a vested interest in the truth coming out." Samantha clenched her fists. "What truth? About Liam? About Rachel? Because from where I'm standing, all I see are a bunch of lies and half-baked excuses." Marcus pushed off the railing, stepping closer. "You're not wrong," he said, his tone matter-of-fact. "Liam lied to you. Rachel lied to him, and everyone's been lying to themselves about how deep this mess goes." Samantha's jaw tightened. "Spare me the cryptic crap. What's your connection to all of this?" Marcus turned to Rachel, his gaze hardening. "Should I tell her, or do you want to come clean?" Rachel's face paled. "Please," she whispered, "don't do this." But Marcus ignored her, turning back to Samantha. "Liam's not just covering for Rachel. He's been manipulated. By her, by me, and by the people she's running from. You think this is about love or friendship? It's not. It's about money, and Liam's been trying to play the hero in a game he doesn't understand." Samantha's mind raced, the pieces of the puzzle rearranging themselves in ways she hadn't anticipated. "What do you mean, a game? What kind of game?" Marcus chuckled darkly. "The kind where people get hurt if they can't pay up. Rachel's ex? He's not just some abusive jerk, he's a loan shark, and Rachel owes him more money than she'll ever be able to repay." Samantha's stomach turned. "And Liam got involved because Rachel played him," Marcus said bluntly. "She knew he'd do anything to protect her, even if it meant stealing from you to settle her debts. But it's not enough. It was never going to be enough." Samantha turned to Rachel, her eyes blazing. "Is this true? Did you really manipulate him into stealing from me?" Rachel shook her head frantically. "It's not like that. I didn't ask him to do that. I didn't even know he was taking money from you until Marcus told me. I was desperate. I didn't know what else to do." "Desperate?" Samantha spat. "You're using my money to clean up your mess, and you think that makes you a victim." Marcus stepped between them, his presence dominating the tense space. "Ladies, let's not get emotional. This isn't about who's right or wrong, it's about survival." Samantha glared at him. "And what's your role in all this, Marcus? Why are you so interested in exposing them?" Marcus's smirk returned. "Because I work for the people Rachel owes, and I figured you'd want to know where your money's really going." The air seemed to leave Samantha's lungs. "You're one of them?" He nodded, his expression unreadable. "Not exactly a loan shark, but let's just say I have a professional interest in making sure debts get paid. And when I found out Liam was using your money, I realized you had a right to know." Samantha's anger flared. "So what now? You think I'm just going to hand over more money to cover Rachel's debt?" "Not exactly," Marcus said, his tone turning serious. "You're smart, Samantha. Successful. I'm offering you a way to make this go away, for good." "And what's the catch?" she asked, her voice laced with suspicion. "No catch," Marcus said. "Just leverage. You help settle Rachel's debt, and in exchange, I make sure Liam and Rachel are out of your life for good." Samantha stared at him, her thoughts racing. Every fiber of her being screamed that this was a trap, another manipulation designed to pull her deeper into this nightmare. But the alternative, letting this spiral further out of control, was unbearable. She glanced at Rachel, who looked small and defeated, and then at Marcus, who waited patiently, like a predator watching its prey. Finally, her gaze settled on the glittering skyline beyond the terrace. "I need time to think," she said quietly. Marcus nodded, as if he'd expected that. "Don't take too long," he warned. "Decisions like this come with expiration dates." As he turned to leave, Rachel reached for Samantha's arm. "I'm sorry," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I never meant for any of this to happen." Samantha pulled away, her voice cold. "You didn't just hurt me, you hurt Liam. And for what? To save yourself." Rachel said nothing, her silence confirming the truth. Samantha turned and walked back into the elevator, her heart heavy with anger, betrayal, and a growing sense of dread. As the doors closed, she realized that the choice she faced wasn't just about money. It was about trust, loyalty, and what she was willing to sacrifice to protect her future. The elevator doors closed with a soft chime, leaving Samantha alone with her thoughts as it descended to the ground floor. Her hands trembled slightly, a mix of anger, fear, and betrayal coursing through her veins. She had spent years clawing her way to success, building an empire brick by brick, and now it felt like her world was crumbling under the weight of someone else's lies. Her phone buzzed again, another message from Marcus. "The clock's ticking, Samantha. What's it going to be?" She stared at the screen, her jaw tightening. She wasn't a woman who made decisions lightly, but she also wasn't one to let anyone corner her. If Marcus thought she was going to play his game without a fight, he had underestimated her. Samantha stepped out of the hotel into the cool night air and hailed a cab. Her destination, her lawyer's office. She wasn't going to let Marcus, Rachel, or even Liam dictate her next move. If there was one thing she knew how to do, it was to take control of a situation. 2 hours later, armed with financial statements and legal advice, she returned to the hotel. Her plan was clear. She had no intention of paying off Rachel's debt directly, but she also wasn't going to let Liam get away with stealing from her. And Marcus? He was about to learn that Samantha Gray wasn't a woman to be threatened. She found Liam pacing outside the hotel room, his expression frantic. When he saw her, relief washed over his face. "Samantha," he said, rushing toward her. "Thank God, I was so worried." "Save it," she cut him off, her tone icy. "We're done." Liam froze, his eyes wide. "What do you mean, done?" Samantha stepped closer, her voice low and controlled. "You lied to me. You stole from me. You betrayed everything we built together. And for what? To clean up someone else's mess? To play the hero in a story you didn't belong in?" Liam's face crumpled. "I was trying to protect her, Samantha. She needed help." "And what about me?" she snapped. "Did I not deserve your honesty, your loyalty? Or did you think my money made me an easy target?" He opened his mouth to speak, but she held up a hand to stop him. "I'm done, Liam. I've already contacted my lawyer. The bank transfers? Consider them reported. Whatever happens next is on you." Rachel appeared in the doorway, her face pale and tear-streaked. "Samantha, please," she said, her voice trembling. "Don't do this to him. He was only trying to help me." Samantha's glare shifted to Rachel. "This isn't about you, Rachel. This is about him and the choices he made. But if you really cared about him, you wouldn't have dragged him into your mess in the first place." Rachel broke into sobs, but Samantha didn't waver. She turned on her heel and started down the hall, her steps firm and unyielding. She wasn't going to let emotion cloud her judgment. Not anymore. As Samantha exited the hotel, Marcus was waiting for her near the curb, leaning casually against a black SUV. He raised an eyebrow as she approached. "So, what's the verdict?" Samantha stopped a few feet away, crossing her arms. "Here's the deal, Marcus. You want your money? You'll have to take it up with Rachel and her ex. But if you ever come near me or my finances again, I'll make sure you regret it." Marcus's smirk faltered. "Bold words, Miss Gray, but I hope you understand who you're dealing with." "Oh, I do," Samantha said, her voice steel. "And you should understand who you're dealing with. I've already contacted my lawyers, the authorities, and a few journalists who'd love to write a story about a loan shark harassing one of Manhattan's most successful women. So, unless you want your entire operation exposed, I suggest you back off." For a moment, Marcus stared at her, his expression unreadable. Then, to her surprise, he chuckled. "Fair enough," he said, stepping back. "You've got guts. I can respect that. Consider this conversation over. For now." Samantha didn't wait for his dismissal. She turned and walked away, her head held high. For the first time that night, she felt like she was back in control. The next morning, Samantha boarded a flight to Napa Valley. The engagement party was canceled, of course, but she decided to keep the venue booking as a personal retreat. She needed time to heal, to think, and to move forward. As the vineyard's rolling hills came into view, Samantha felt a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in months. She had lost a relationship, but she had regained something far more important: her sense of self-worth. Sitting on the terrace with a glass of wine in hand, she made a promise to herself. She wouldn't let this experience harden her heart or make her cynical about love, but she also wouldn't settle for anything less than honesty and respect. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, Samantha smiled for the first time in days. The worst was behind her, and the future was hers to shape.